You are listening to the Bright Life Podcast, all about ways to stay inspired, chase your dreams, and find more gratitude in the highs and lows of the journey. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson. I'm a business owner, a part-time digital nomad, a self-growth junkie, a believer in other big-hearted women, and am all about sharing tips, tricks, lessons learned, and encouragement so we can all live our biggest, brightest lives. You ready? Let's do this. Hi, gorgeous. Happy almost 2024. Can you believe we are at the end of another year, gearing up for the whole start of another chapter? And I don't know about you, but this time of year can bring up so much of all the things, right? Both pride for what we've accomplished, maybe some longing for things that we didn't get to or forgot about somewhere along the way, the chance to recommit and to focus on what really matters and to kind of wipe the slate clean for the new year. So I love this time of year. I think it always feels good to have some fresh energy in. And today, wherever you're at, what I felt called to talk about is giving you a little bit of permission to choose your priority so that you don't have to feel that sense of longing or like, did you choose the right thing? Could you have done better in some areas? This one little thing has made a really big difference for me in giving myself permission to just focus on what really matters in life. And even if I don't get to everything, or I don't do everything right or perfectly, or I don't grow as fast as I want to in some areas, for me, it's released a lot of that feeling of like, I should have done something different because I'm clear on what matters most. And so that's what I want to share with you today. I've found this so life-changing, and I hope that you will as well. And so here is kind of the aha that I had. I was talking with my business coach, Lacey Seitz, who I love. Make sure you follow her if you don't already. She always drops so much wisdom on Instagram and everywhere in all her circles. But she really helped me focus on what is your biggest priority in this particular season. Is it life? Is it business? And so, for example, I was in a season at this point in our conversation when we had a lot of travel coming up, and I also simultaneously, of course, wanted to do all these projects all at once in my business. And so I felt this push and pull of trying to do all the things as much as I could, but then also enjoy travel and enjoy the moment. And her asking me that question gave me so much clarity and permission around choosing what actually mattered more. So for me, I decided that what the actual priority was in that season was to focus on having this life experience and making that the front thing. Now, of course, all my business goals, those would still be going on and still be happening. But for me in that season, I didn't want to feel like I went on this trip and had all these amazing experiences, but just worked right through them and wasn't actually present. So the simple act of doing that freed me to be able to be more present, to have those memories, to live that to the fullest, and then to let my business fit around that. So I still worked on my business, I still moved goals forward, but if there was ever one of those afternoons or days when there was the chance to have a life experience or a memory I'd never forget, it freed me from that tug of war of being like, well, I should probably be in working on my business right now, because I knew that the greater priority for that season was to have a life first lens where I was savoring and experiencing and being present for the opportunity to experience something new that I'd been looking forward to for a really long time. Now, that's not to say that every season is like that. I have certainly had seasons, and you probably have had too, where business and income becomes the priority, and maybe you are really heads down for a big season. I know even during the pandemic, for me, I was so heads down on my business because there really wasn't a lot going on in the world. So that wasn't the time I was seeking a social life or anything like that. I really drove into my business. I worked really long days. I got it launched. I grew it, in that season. And so there's some ebb and flow here. And it's not to say that everyone gets the gift of being able to choose, but probably throughout your life you will. So I want to share that as one example, but I want to give you a few others as well. And That could even be for you if you are like a stay-at-home mama. Maybe you're in this season of feeling pulled from like, do you focus on the children that you have at home with you, but then you see all these things about building a business and maybe you're looking for fulfillment in that way. And so maybe this is a question that you even ask yourself in this season of like, what is the bigger priority? And either way, it's okay. It's you and your life and your family that you get to answer for. But what I hope that does is that it just gives you a lot of peace and permission around the next time you feel pulled in both directions. You can get calm and you can let yourself off the hook of having to choose both, and instead know you chose this as your bigger priority. So you're going to focus on that direction, and then the other one can fill in when needed. Okay, or however it works for your life. Now, here's a few other examples that aren't just like life business, because you don't always have to choose, right? It can be different things. So another one could be even within a business. If you're growing a business, maybe there's part of you that really wants to see more sales coming in, more income to grow your business. And then there's another part of you that's always watching your social media accounts and you're like, why aren't I growing my followers? Why aren't I getting more engagement? Okay, this is the perfect opportunity to get clear with yourself and to ask yourself, what is the most important thing in my business, no matter what stage of business you're in? If you're just starting out, this is a great one to clarify. If you're years in, this is another one to get some new, fresh perspective on. But what is truly most important over the next quarter or season for you? Because if it's sales and income, let yourself not care as much if your follower counts and engagement on social media aren't growing, because that's not what you chose to focus on, to care about, to measure, to work towards growing. So if you have your best month ever in revenue, but you dip in followers on social media, great, because the thing that you focused on was sales. Now, conversely, if what you want to do is focus on your brand and maybe you're growing a social media account or for some reason, and you're not as worried about generating revenue because you know that you're building something else over here and that's what matters more, great. Then don't beat yourself up for not seeing more sales come in the door because you were focused intentionally on follower counts and on growing your brand presence and engaging with new wonderful humans on social media. So that's a few ways that I see this play out. And there's a million examples in business. You could do this with all different angles. Maybe you're focused on a launch in one season, and so you don't worry so much about your recurring programs. Maybe you are really focused on announcing a big branding campaign and getting the name of your business out there, and that the way that you'll measure that is by inquiries coming in and conversations you've had. And so you don't worry so much about website clicks or things like that. I don't want to get too technical, but there's just so many ways you can slice this based on your business and the stage that you're at. A third way pertains to this holiday season, right? So I know all of us have a lot going on this time of year, and maybe you're feeling a little bit of that pull for being really present, but at the same time preparing for the new year and entering it 100% ready. I know I feel a little bit of that this year where I'm like, there's so much going on and I want to experience everything, but then also how do I get fully prepared for 2024? And I've heard from many of you that that's kind of where you're at as well. And so this could be the perfect way to choose fresh and just give yourself the permission and the weight off your shoulders that you know what you chose and why. So choose right now. What is the most important to you? Is it being present and having these memories with family and having the food and not worrying so much about the health regimen because it's the holidays? Or on the other side, is it feeling prepared and organized heading into 2024, sticking to your health regimen, having the house clean and feeling like you're entering 2024 in your clearest headspace? Because those are kind of different things, right? They can exist together, just like all of these examples, but there's just which one is the greater priority to you, because that is going to inform what you allow yourself to enjoy and to focus on. And even with the other things, there's still room for them, but they're just not the thing that you're going to be driving as hard for. Okay, and the last point that I want to make in this is, and I've kind of been alluding to it throughout, but there's often not one or the other. There's often both, right? Like you can be present in your life and have a growing business. You can feel present with your family and also long for more fulfillment through a side hustle or something like that. Like you can desire sales and business and also see your follower accounts grow as well. You can have a wonderful holiday season and also give yourself the time to prepare for New Year's. So these things aren't choosing buckets between one or the other and you're abandoning one by choosing the other. It's really just allowing yourself to get clear on what matters the most to you right now in this season, and therefore truly allowing yourself to let go if in the other bucket some things don't get done exactly perfectly, or it's not this huge growth season because you know why you made that trade-off and you intentionally did so. So this has helped me so much when I feel like one area I'm like, oh man, like I wish I was doing better at this, or I know there's things I can improve over here, but I'm like, but I chose this other area for a reason. So I'm going to lean into that and savor it and really know that I chose with clear intentions around that. The other piece is you can choose again anytime. So if you pick one and you then feel like it wasn't the right thing, I mean, give yourself some time to not play that tug of war of choosing one and then making yourself wrong for the other. But if you decide at a future point that you really have decided your priorities have changed, that's okay too. Then you can choose again. But at least give yourself the time now for the next 90 days or quarter, 3 months to get out of that tug of war and mental battle of feeling like no matter what you choose, it's wrong. And instead, choose with clarity and know why you're choosing what you're choosing and feel confident in that. Okay? And different seasons will call for different things. Just as I've mentioned, you'll find that some seasons, some things are more important. In other seasons, that changes. That is the cycle of life. This is really just all about choosing for yourself and your situation and your family and your life and what you want and what matters most to you, right? Everyone has different values. Everyone has a different situation, different resources, different needs. And so all of that is going to inform different things and is going to change what you would choose in your shoes right now versus in your shoes in a year or in your friend's shoes right now. And so just kind of want to add those as little caveats as well, that this isn't about adding more restrictions. It's really just hopefully about freeing yourself to know what's really most important to you and to let the other stuff go. I also heard my coach Lacey mention it this way. She, said she'd been seeing people talk about gua sha and all these things, which is like a facial sculpting tool. And, on Instagram, there's all these fun little tips and tricks for skincare these days. And she had this thought of like, that's just not my season right now. She has like a toddler and I loved how she put that. And I think that can apply to this conversation since she was the one who sparked this idea anyway, of just like, it's okay if it's your season for something and it's okay if it's not. And just allowing yourself the self-trust and groundedness to choose that for yourself instead of feeling like you're doing everything wrong or not keeping up with everything, like that's really okay. And I hope after this episode, you feel like you have actually chosen and you know why you did it, and now you can release yourself from that need to be all things to all people because you know what matters most. You've chosen it, and you can trust yourself that when the time comes to choose again, choose differently, you can do that as well. All right, that is my last message of the year. I hope it gives you peace and encouragement heading into 2024, whether you are just running into it a hot mess and you'll figure it out as you go, or whether you really are going to decide that this is something you want to prepare for and feel really like you've got your skincare done and you're entering clean sheets and shave legs and all the things for 2024. I welcome it all. I love you wherever you're at. And thank you so much for being here and for listening to this episode. It means so much to me to have you here. And I truly hope you have the best start to 2024 ever, and I hope this is your best year yet. Thank you so much for listening in. If you love this episode, I have 2 things you are going to love. One is a free copywriter training full of 5 steps to build a profitable copywriting business as your own boss, no matter how much experience you're starting with. Copywriting is what took me from a 9-to-5 to freedom as my own boss to travel, choose my schedule, replace my corporate income, and have time to work on creative projects like this podcast. And I'd love to give other women the same opportunity. Another, of course, is my book, Your Bright Life. You can find it on Amazon or Audible, where I narrate the audiobook. So it's kind of like a podcast in book form. All of these things are in the podcast show notes. Thank you again for listening. I appreciate you and your review so much, and I'll see you back here next Thursday.